and welcome to the second season of AUA Focus Series, a podcast channeled by the AUA Media Lab. I'm Viktorya Aydinyan, an adjunct lecturer at AUA. I'm teaching policy process and analysis, and I'm also a proud alumna of this university. And my guest today is Mr. Zohrab Mnatsakanyan. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Mr. Mnatsakanyan is a senior diplomat and former foreign minister for Armenia with more than 30 years of experience in international relations, multilateral diplomacy, and global governance. He played a pivotal role in shaping Armenia's international integration and diplomacy, from leading negotiations with the European Union and major UN bodies to advancing genocide prevention initiatives and guiding peace talks on Nagorno-Karabakh. So our conversation today is centered on the role of public service and how public service has shaped the development of Armenia, and also, correspondingly, the pivotal role of education in shaping professional and ethical public servants that are delivering policies that matter to the public. So, Mr. Mnatsakanyan, you have not only observed but also contributed to the development of public institutions in Armenia over the last 35 years. So how, according to your observations, has the system transformed throughout these years, and what were the internal and external factors that shaped it?
Thank you very much, Victoria. First of all, it's an absolute pleasure to share this podcast with you. I think we belong to two different generations of people who have been engaged in public service. You represent the new generation, and I'm very excited to see the change and the new blood, which brings with itself new energy and new perception of statehood, of sovereignty, and the role of public service for the purpose of public good in a sovereign, independent state. When we started, it was just the beginning of independence, beginning of sovereignty. There were institutions in Armenia which migrated from the previous times into the new republic. But the culture and the tradition of that service was, of course, shaped for a different purpose. There were at the same time institutions which could only exist in an independent environment, an environment of sovereignty. And one of those was, of course, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You cannot have a Ministry of Foreign Affairs if you don't have independence. Yeah. So we were starting from absolute scratch. I came back to Armenia in 1991. I returned I concluded my studies in Manchester and returned to Armenia, straight into the independent Armenia and straight into the newly shaping Ministry of Foreign Affairs. There were different people. It was a small community of people compared to what we have today, of course. A small community of people with strong commitment, belief, enthusiasm, with different experience in life, different educational background, but with one thing in common: zero experience. So the building of the National Institution of Foreign Ministry was an institution to conduct foreign affairs for the nation. Understanding the role and purpose of diplomacy, understanding the role of purpose of conducting foreign policy as civil servants was a novelty. And I think over years, gradually, we have been managing to build these blocks and streamline into one coherent service in which the experiences could be merged into one common, national experience. So today, as the new people are coming in, of course they are coming into a system of 35 years of national experience, of institutional memory. And that, I think, is the fundamental difference.
Thank you. And I recalled a quote from Monet, who was famously saying that nothing is possible without men, aka people, but nothing really lasts without institutions. So when I first joined public sector in 2017, for me, that was a novelty. And my feelings were that there are so many things that we've been studying from developed countries, predominantly Western countries, and we didn't have that in place in Armenia. And that feeling I have even today. But yesterday I had this interesting conversation with a dear colleague of mine. We are in the process of introducing a new strategic management system, and bureaucracy, public sector, the government machinery has been traditionally blamed to be very slow, not effective and efficient. And we were trying to see how we can build new strategies in order to ensure that the government is mission-driven, value-driven. And we figured out that we do have a lot of studies, a lot of strategies already in place that have been developed throughout these years. So sometimes the feeling might be that we're all starting from scratch, especially for those people who are just joining public sector. But when you dig deeper, you see that there is an institutional memory. There are some systems and norms and cultures that have been shaped throughout these years. And we do have a statehood, unlike in 1990s, I suppose, when you first joined public sector. So it's really important to see what you have, to value, and of course, to build on the structures that are already there. But sometimes my, again, feeling is that you need to also go through the journey of creative destruction, because some systems, some cultural elements are not serving the purpose right now. So maybe we also need to have the courage to go against those systems and structures that have become obsolete or redundant in this 21st century, especially given the rapid developments and technological advancements, the challenges we're facing today. And maybe we should start talking about the environment, the geopolitical realities, internal developments, and the challenges Armenia is facing. Again, I keep recalling this famous statesman, and I think it was Bismarck who said that even the best laws will not work if you don't have proper public servants. So given today's realities, who should be a public servant working in the government of Armenia in order to design and deliver policies and services that matter for the people, for the country, and for the mission we have today in this fastly evolving world?
Well, first of all, I very much agree that, adaptation to the realities, adaptation to the priorities, strategic vision are absolutely significant in attaching quality to public service. We all understand we are not discovering anything new about the role of institutions as the foundations of continuity, foundations of institutional memory, foundations of capacity to absorb crisis in the in the conduct of public affairs, and bureaucracy may be described as slow, and perhaps it's intrinsic in the institutions that they are resisting abrupt action, destructive, creative destruction, as you are saying, is one way of seeing it. Adaptation and continuity is another function of the institutions. We are a democratic state with the rules that apply to a democratic state with all its consequences. There is public service, which is conducted by the political class and the civil service. They have two different functions, and they function differently, right? Public service is about, civil service is about continuity and adaptability and strength of the institutions. Political class works with a different mindset, with a different function. So the focus on institutions, the focus on the institutional capacity to address challenges, to address priorities, their effectiveness very much depends on the quality of the institutions. And institutions are people, as you rightly say, people who absorb institutional memory and to invest in the creation of the new memory. So here, of course, the ideal public servant, civil servant, is the one who has that, commitment, has that vision, and has that sense of a mission about the contribution to the nation, right? The way in which he or she approaches the task very much, is grounded in the overall background, overall, educational strength with which they come in. The vision, the initiative, the capacity to formulate policies, the capacity to help shape formulation of policies. If you delegate as a bureaucrat, if you delegate the final decision, the decision making to your boss, you are a functionary. You are the boring bureaucrat, right? If you are that person who sees the mission in engaging in the formulation, shaping the decision, for which the ultimate responsibility, of course, is for the political class. And the quality of decision-making very much depends on that capacity of combining those various aspects of vision, political capacity, political, the potential of implementation, right? Yeah. So it's on this, a broader perception and embrace of the mission, of the purpose of the service, in which humans have the primary role. This is how you contribute to institutional strength and institutional capacity, and you create institutional memory, your contribution to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when years ago I was new in the public sector. Someone told me that, are you really comfortable being just a cog in a system? And then as I went with my service, it became more evident to me that the whole system, the machinery functions with daily operations of small cogs. So you might seem, even for yourself, someone who's not doing much, but at the end of the day, whatever you're doing, even those tiny steps contribute to something bigger, to making the lives of citizens better, to continuing the existence or to creating building blocks of your country to continue its existence today, tomorrow, in the coming decades. And also you mentioned a very important topic about this intrinsic tension between bureaucracy and politicians, because politicians are here to be re-elected, and that's the nature of politics. It's a contestation for power. So for that reason, their thinking is very often short-term, and it's bounded by election cycles, whereas public service is usually considered to be thinking more longer-term, and also the intrinsic motivation of civil service and bureaucracy is to expand itself and to keep the status quo. So on one hand, we have this urge to have quick wins by politicians, and then fears and also the need to remain in the comfort zone of bureaucracy. So how can this tension be solved in a democratic society?
That tension is the nature of democracy. And that tension is that process in which the the civil servant understands very well they are not sequestered from the political realities. In a democratic society, the legitimacy of decision-making is in the legitimacy of power. In a democratic society, the legitimacy of power is reflected by votes, right?
Yes.
So you're right that there are different purposes, different priorities with which the political class and the civil service approach policy making and policy implementation. But it is in this perception, understanding that they are basically serving the public. That's why public service. And that public service is reflected through the power of legitimacy in a democratic society with which power is acquired, and delivery on that mandate that has been given to the political class, mandate to deliver on policies for the good of the public. And this is where the perception of it by the civil service is exactly in the combination of institutional memory, capacity, elaboration of policies, right? Shaping the policy making and contributing in that way, right? That's where that merger is supposed to happen, right? It is a difficult process. It is through conflict, maybe. It is through, but conflict not in a negative term. Consensus through conflict kind of process. Most importantly, is the professionalism of the civil service, which is grounded in the quality of the background, quality of the education in which civil service is recruited. That quality very much depends on their background. Of course, there is a very critical question about the capacity of the state to sustain quality civil service. And that is, of course, an ongoing conversation in our country and in an ongoing conversation, believe me, in every other country in the world.
Absolutely.
So sustaining quality civil service is a challenge. At the same time, I can say I have come across very many people in my life, in the political class, in the civil service, among the civil service. Of course, there are people who, approach their job in a rather more, let's say, relaxed way. What one might say, the 9 to 6 people.
Yeah. 5:30, I would say.
5:30. But at the same time, I have known, and I'm very proud to know, a very good, committed, very good, committed people who see their job as a mission, as a contribution. They believe in what they're doing, and that is, of course, very important. But that is also not enough, because the capacity, the intellectual capacity to be a policy shaper, I think, is the most important thing. So structured thinking, critical thinking, capacity to combine various factors into your thinking and guiding it towards realistic, shaping of decisions which are realistically implementable is the daily challenge.
Absolutely. And now we can smoothly go to the question of the role of education in shaping public servants. So during my lectures here at AUA, I keep telling my students that you need to have technical skills and capacity to do proper policy analysis, to give proper data and recommendations to political decision makers. But what really matters is the adaptability, the way you think, your flexibility, and also how you perceive your role in the civil service, in the government, and what is your mission. What, at the end of the day, how you perceive to be your contribution to the development of the society and your values that you hold, which are democracy, deliberation, participation, inclusion, increasing the welfare, you name it. So how do you see the role of education institutions such as AUA and others in Armenia, abroad, in shaping public servants of today and tomorrow?
Look, it's an excellent question, an excellent theme to elaborate on. Look, I remember if we take the example of the Foreign Service, right? We had good people, coming from different walks of life, right? So you had to aim at some sort of coherence, that people in the service, people in the room don't speak different languages, not linguistically speaking, but conceptually speaking.
Linguistically, it's good.
So that you develop coherence in the service. So we did have that phase when there was retraining or training and capacity building, human capacity building with the engagement of institutions, partner institutions outside Armenia, right? But over time, we were developing our own homegrown capacities to aim at that coherence. I'm not quite convinced today that we have come to a very good level at it. But what I know is that now we are far more reliant on what we can do at home in terms of growing human capacity with our own resources. Because 35 years of independent national experience is 35 years of experience which penetrates every walk of life. And that also concerns education. AUA has been, in my view, a very good contributor to that. Now, the point, as I'm saying, is about coherence. We all can see a glass of water on the table. How we interpret that glass of water on the table is an interesting, challenging question. I'm not talking about conformity. Yeah. God forbid we come to that point when we have conformity. That's the most dangerous thing that can happen. That we all believe in the, as they said in the past, in the general line of the party.
Oh, yeah.
So God forbid that. But how we can interpret what we see, how we can analyze what we see, how we can, build reason and rational thinking, that we can use that capacity of critical thinking into a quality product, which is policy shaping, right? That, in my view, is where the absolute role of the educational capacity is, grounded in. I think that I would personally welcome very much if we do, in the educational sector, especially, social sciences, that we broadly pay significant attention for the, entrance into education, that we pay attention to the strong foundations of reason. I would very much welcome that we educate more our young people in Greek classics all the way to, the evolution of human thought throughout centuries, And through that strength of building, building reason, the capacity to, attach reason to your thinking, to develop rational thinking, is where I see the strength and the need, in fact, that is still very visible. And AUA has proven its capacity to pay attention to this. Perhaps there is still a good potential to dig deeper into that. But the whole point is about that common foundational kind of, ground on which all the various streams of knowledge are subsequently built.
Absolutely. And I do agree that today we need probably generalists, because the machines, technology, AI sometimes can perform technical tasks better. But AI is not going to make decisions on our behalf. And in the government today, we need people who have critical thinking, definitely, who have certain value system, be it liberty, equity, justice, and they hold on to those values even when they're designing policies that seem to be very technocratic and technical. And also, I would add that education institutions should teach how to learn and relearn and unlearn new things, which is about academic humility. Because during my lectures, we were trying to find public in public policy. Sometimes in our cabinets, we forget that we don't know everything, and the reality outside of the capital of our building is completely different. And it's the beauty of deliberation, democracy, public engagement that really results in policies that are going to be effective and implementable. And at the end of the day, democracy is the will of people. It's a public contract. And you need to deliver on the vision and missions that the majority of the public aims at, of course, with respecting the rights of minorities and with proper inclusive process. Thank you very much, Mr. Mnatsakanyan, and looking forward to exploring new ideas with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.